So hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So into this video, we're gonna make this AI website summarizer, and I hosted this website. Okay, so with Streamlit. So let me show you a real good example of it. So we're gonna go to CNBC. Let's copy this out and let's paste this over here. When we summarize this, it's gonna summarize the website for us. It's gonna take a bit of time since the website is a bit too lengthy. So here's the summary. Website summary, financial news and market analysis, key content sections, special features and services, and all those things, right? It has been hosted on Streamlit. We are basically focusing on more on the AI concepts over here. So that's why we are using Streamlit over here. So let's go to Google AI Studio. We're going to set up our AI keys over here. For that to happen, visit this website, that is aistudio.google.com. Log in with your Google account, and you can simply click on this Get API Keys. And when you click on this, you're going to be redirected to this page, and you're going to click Create API Key, name of your project, all those things, add on and create the API key. And when you get it over here, this row, click on this API key, copy it over here. As simple as that. Copy this, keep it like that. Okay, let's move on to the Finder. Not visible, so let's open it over here. Okay, now AI YouTube projects. I have made a folder that has website summarizer. That's empty right now. Okay, we gotta make one. Take it over here. Select this. Drop it on Visual Studio Code. Okay, fine. It's a bit zoomed out. We're gonna zoom. It's a bit zoomed in. We gotta zoom out, right? So let's zoom out a bit. That's fine, right? Should I zoom out once more? It should, I think. Okay, that's fine. That's completely fine. The first thing first, what are you gonna do? We're gonna start making environment over here. Now let's go to terminal, click on new terminal. What you're gonna do is check if Python is installed on your machine or not. Okay, you need to add two hyphens. Python 3.1, 3.7 is installed. Okay, let's move on further. Let's add Python MVENV. Okay, we need to set up a virtual environment. Okay, let's do it. A virtual environment has been created. Now, what we need to do is we need to activate it. Okay, for that to happen, if you're on Windows, what we need to do is let's talk about Mac first. Okay, we need to do source dot venv slash bin slash activate. Okay, there you go. Now, if you're on Windows, what you're gonna do is source, not source, you gotta do venv slash scripts slash activate. If it doesn't work, try adding source in front of it. Okay, venv. The spelling is wrong over here. Make that correct. Okay, if it doesn't work, add source in front of it. Because I'm a Mac user, I'm not familiar with Windows, so that's gonna do the work for you. Okay. So let's move forward. Our virtual environment is created. Now, firstly, we need to install some dependencies on which our project is going to run. Okay. So for that to happen, we need to do pip install. What are you going to do? For hosting, we need Streamlit, right? For OpenAI, it's a library. We're going to use Gemini. We're going to use Gemini, but we have OpenAI. Okay. Now, we are going to need beautiful soup. Beautiful soup. Oh, perfect. And then request to request some data from the website for web scraping, and then we're gonna do python slash dot env. Okay, let's do it. That's gonna take a bit of time. So we are done installing the packages right now, and what we need to do is we're gonna create some files over here. Okay, firstly, let's make the .env file. This is gonna save all the environment variables. You copied out the API key, right? Just do it something like this: Google underscore AI key, API keys. Okay, add equals to, and simply add the link or simply add the API key which you copied from over here. Simply co- click on this, copy that, and paste it inside this. As simple as that. You gotta keep it like that. Okay. Now let's move on to the other file that is app.py. Okay. App.py is over here. Let's start the coding. Let's get on the battlefield. Okay. Let's get this rolling. For that to happen, we need to do what? First thing first, we need to import overs. We need to access those files, right? We need to import the overs. I'm going to explain everything to you. Just sit there quietly, follow along, or just watch the video. You're going to understand everything. Okay. Listen to me. .env. What are you going to import? .env for loading the API keys, which is present over here. You need to add the API keys over here. Okay. You need to surely add the API keys over here. So from .env, import load underscore .env. Okay. Now, next, what you're going to do is for hosting, we're going to need for Streamlit. Import Streamlit as ST. We're going to import Streamlit. We're going to do it for hosting and for the UI. Not going to hosting. We're not going to do it for the hosting. We're going to do it for the UI. Okay. As simple as that. We don't want to run it into the terminal, right? We want a good looking UI, minimalist. For that to happen, we need Streamlit. .env to access those variables, import overs to access those files. Now, next thing from OpenAI, import OpenAI, OpenAI library, which is basically we're gonna access Gemini or Google AI keys through OpenAI library formatting. The convention which that is used mostly in the industry as OpenAI's calling feature. We're not actually calling the OpenAI, we're actually calling Gemini. But over here, we're going to be using the technique which OpenAI uses. So it's just a library. We're not calling OpenAI anything. That thing is going to happen like that. We are just using Gemini API keys with the formatting of OpenAI. That's it. Okay. From BS4, what are you going to import? Beautiful soup. For what thing? Beautiful soup. Beautiful soup is for what? For structuring, for parsing the HTML files and import request. As usual, sending request to the URL and get the HTML back from that website to parse it. Okay. So firstly, let's load the .env file. Okay. Load .env. Perfect. Sounds great. Sounds perfect. Now what we're gonna do next? Now we're gonna need Gemini base URL. Okay. Gemini base URL. Can you see the link over here? I'll just copy this link from my other tab and I'm gonna paste it over here. You don't have to do anything. It's just the link. You don't have to set up anything over here. Basically using the OpenAI library on the Google APIs. Understand? OpenAI accessing technique to access the Gemini API keys. As simple as that. Understand? Understand me? Please hold on. We'll understand everything. Let's move on. What's next? Now we need what? Now we need what? We do now need Google API keys. So let's write it down. Google API keys. Google API keys is equal to os dot get env Google API keys dot env file. Okay. I'm just gonna pause the video right now over here. I'm gonna add the API keys, which my API keys over here, and then I'm gonna close the env file, and I'm not gonna open this back again in this project because I don't want to show it to everyone. It's very secret, it's very private. So let's keep it like that. I'm just pausing the video of mine for a while. I'm gonna paste it over here. Okay. So I've pasted the API keys and the .env file. Okay. So for now, what we're gonna do is let's keep it down. And firstly, we need to fetch some data from the website, right? No AI is involved over here, nothing. For that to happen, I'm gonna write a quick function. Okay, let's write a function. Define fetch website underscore contents. Okay, what are you gonna pass? You're gonna pass the URL. URL is gonna be a string. And what's the output is gonna be? Output is gonna be in the format of string as well, since we're gonna get the HTML back, right? We're gonna get the HTML back. Now, response. Okay, response is equals to request dot get. We're gonna send a request. Okay, what we're gonna send? We're gonna send a request to this URL. Okay, this URL. Whatever the URL is coming and the function parameters, sending a request, get request, and you're gonna pass on some headers to it. Okay, what is the headers? I'll explain that to you. Don't worry about it. Headers, right? We need to define the headers. For that to happen, we need to declare a headers dictionary over here. It's simple, very simple. You don't have to do anything. You just have to specify what browser I'm using. Delete this out. We don't need that much of data. That is Mozilla 5.0. Okay. The user agent is the headers is specifying the type of browser. The URL which is coming from over here, we are getting it over here. Then timeout. If the data is not given back to us in 10 seconds, we're gonna snap it through and we're gonna throw an error. Right? Understood? That's fine, right? So basically, what we're doing over here is we're getting the data from this function, right? The next things what we're gonna do is we're gonna add response. Whatever this response, we're gonna store the response and the response variable. And response is equals to response dot raise for status. Understand this. What this line of code is gonna do is if the website returns an error, if this URL returns an error like a 404 or 500 error, this line throws an exception and it prevents bad responses from breaking the code later on. Right? So that's how we are handling the error over here. Let's go down. Let's add soup. Soup is equals to beautiful soup. Beautiful soup is a library. Okay. Beautiful soup. Perfect. And what's gonna be a content? It's gonna be response dot content HTML parse. Okay. I'll explain that to you. What it does is beautiful soup. This beautiful soup passes the HTML from the website, turns the raw HTML into a structured object. which is a structured object called soup. So you can extract all the data very much easily. Okay, let's go on to the next line. Let's go to title. So now we're gonna use a ternary operator. Okay, let's write X if condition else Y. Let's explain condition ternary operator to you as well. Don't worry, you're gonna get everything. Mm. What's the condition? We need to fetch the title right from the website. So what's the condition? Two. We stored everything. We passed everything. We stored it in soup object. So is title present? If there is title present, now we need to store that, right? Soup dot title dot string, right? If soup dot title is present, we need to store that in a variable that is title. And if it is not present, we're gonna show some error that is no title found. Perfect, right? Now what else we can do? Now we're gonna look for the body. Okay, it's soup dot body. What is it? It's soup dot body. We looked for the title from the HTML file. Now we need to look for the body tag. Oh, now look at this. I'll explain that to you. Look at this. For irrelevant and soup script style. I'm gonna remove all this. Now what are you gonna add? Image tags. Don't need image, right? We don't need input tags as well. So what are we basically doing over here? You need to understand it over here. If the body, if the soup, which has been passed all the HTML, if the soup contains a body, we need to do something. If it doesn't contain a body, we need to do something else, right? Okay, let's understand for what are we doing. For irrelevant in soup, for irrelevant in soup, this is the soup. This is the object which we have, soup, right? We're mapping to each and everything. If it is script, style, image, and inputs, we gonna decompose it. We're gonna completely remove it. We're gonna completely remove it with the help of decompose. Destroys this page element and its children. We're gonna completely destroy it. That's what decompose does. Okay, let's move on. What's the next thing which we're gonna add? Text is equal to, now we need to store that in somewhere, right? We need to store it. Once we are done removing the bad elements of the documents which you don't need it, need to store it, right? So for that to happen, so dot body, right? Dot get. We removed everything. We removed everything. We removed every worst thing from the body, right? Now the body is left with just the main things. But we need to store that. For that to happen, we're gonna get the text. Okay. And the separator is gonna be a new line. I'll explain that to you. Okay. Don't worry. I'll explain that to you. So what is basically happening over here is we extract the clean code from the body. The separator is a new line. You're gonna keep adding new line breaks. The text is gonna be completely structured, and strip is gonna be equal to true. What that means is we're gonna remove those extra spaces, and everything is gonna be stored into a variable, which is text. Okay. Else, if soup.border is not present, very simple. What you're gonna do? Text is equals to empty. Let's keep it empty. No body has been found. As simple as that. Okay. Now, text has been defined. Title has been defined. Text has been defined, which is the actual body. Now we need to return it, right? And the function, we need to return it. So we'll call the title. What's the title? Call the title over here. Now, what are you going to do? A new line breaks over here. New line breaks, two line breaks over here. Title, two line breaks. There's going to be title, and there is going to be two line breaks. Line breaks, whatever the hell it is. Breaks, line breaks. Okay. Then we're going to add two line breaks and the text over here. And then we're going to strip it off. Not strip it off. Let's not strip it off. Let's keep it the limit to how much? 2000 characters maximum. Of course, we want to avoid large set of prompts which you want to send to the Gemini, right? You want to keep it short, right? Mm. So let's move forward. The web scraping part is done. We have scraped everything very beautifully. The headers have been defined, they have been sent over here. Now we need to call this function. Before that, what did we do? We imported all the packages. We call the headers, this headers dictionary. We sent it to which fetch website contents. Okay. Now scraping part has been done. We have got the data from the website. Even though we're not calling the function, that is going to be done later on. But we have described the part of the function. Now we need to load the .env, the Gemini based URL. I've given that to you. Simply write it down. Google API key, we have stored it in a .env file. Now let's get to the main part of the video. Let's call up Gemini. Okay, let's call it Gemini. What we're gonna do is we need to write a system prompt. Okay, system prompt. System prompt is something. Mm. There are two types of prompts. Let me tell you, system prompt and user prompt. System prompt is basically which is we define the version which we tell the assistant that you are something like this. Let me tell him what is he, what is she. You are a helpful assistant that summarizes website content based on their queries. Or, okay, we can keep it like this. Perfect. And you keep it concise and in a formatted way. System prompt has been done. Now, I'll define this, but we need to keep this as prefix. Okay, let's move on. It's called Gemini API. How we gonna call it? We're gonna call it with the help of the OpenAI library. So let's see. Client is equals to Open AI and the base URL. We need to set that up, right? We need to set up our OpenAI library for calling the Gemini API. So base URL is gonna be the Gemini base URL. And API key is gonna be the Google API key. Are you getting me? That's why we defined it over here. If you want me, I'll add this link at the top just after this. Okay. Client is equals to OpenAI. Okay. If you want, you can keep the Gemini. But I don't want it to be like that. We can add just another link over here. You can add Anthropic link or anything over here, and you can just make it a completely different variant. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, now let's get further. What we need to do now. It's very simple now. Let's get it rolling. Okay. Let's define the prefix as well. What we need to send us. This are the contents of our website summarize the whole website, including important links. Okay, perfect. That's how all this thing should be. Okay, now let's go to our main thing. Okay, main thing. Define summarize. Okay, define summarize. We're gonna pass in some URL, which is in the form of a string. And what is gonna be the output? Output is always gonna be a string, right? So website is equals to fetch. Let's call a function. Let's call the function. We are passing parameters, right? We're passing parameters that fetch the website contents. What this function is going to do is going to get all the data, all the text data from that website. Okay, all the text data from that website, removing script style image input, and we're going to add a separator that is new lines and two, and the end is going to be title is going to be returned a new line, two separators, and then the whole body of the text, excluding the script style image and inputs. Got it? Let's get rolling. Now, website is equals to fetch website contents, and the URL is going to be present over here, which is going to be passing as a parameter the fetch website contents. So we're calling this function. Whatever the output is going to be coming, that is the output is going to be title plus new lines plus text, which is limited to 2000 characters. So all these things are going to store in a variable that is website. Got it? Now let's get to the next step. Response equals to client dot chat dot completions dot create. We are now connecting with our model, right? We are now connecting with our model. Let me tell you, we can define a model here as well. What type of model we're gonna call? So model is equals to, let's give it all caps. Model is equals to, let's give it 2.5 Pro, 2.5 dash Pro. Perfect. Response. Client. What is the client over here? Client is we are basically connecting to the Gemini, right? To the OpenAI library. Gemini dot chat dot completions dot create. Remember it. Now, what is the model name? Model is gonna be a variable. So what model? Gonna pass the model value as the model variable. Perfect. Now we need to pass on some messages to it, right? Pass on some messages. So that's gonna be a list, and it's gonna be a dictionaries inside the list of dictionaries. Right? Okay, let's add enter, and then let's add a comma, or let's add another curly braces. Fine. Now you define system prompt. Now you define user prompt. Firstly, we need to define what is our assistant like. So for that to happen, the role is gonna be system. The role is system. We're defining a system over here, right? Now we need to pass on some content. What is gonna be the content over here? Content is gonna be the system prompt, which we defined earlier. Okay, system prompt. Role as system. We are calling the role as system. This is the system prompt. The content is gonna be system prompt. As simple as that. Okay. Now we need to add some roles to it. The role is gonna be user. The content is gonna be this one. That is a prefix. That is not the whole user prompt. Now we need to add some prefix. That is content user prompt prefix. Now let's remove all these new lines. We don't need that. Now we need to pass on the website. What is website gonna store over here? Website is storing the returning things of this URL or this function. And what the function is returning? Title plus text, which is limited to 2000 characters. That's the thing. That's why we did it 2000 characters. We don't want it to go, the prompt become very huge. right? We don't want that to become. The role is user, content is user from prefix. Prefix, these are the contents of a website, summarize the whole website, including important links. And what is the content of the website? It is the output of this function. As simple as that. Did you get it? Now we have stored everything, each and every response we're getting from the Gemini into a response variable or an object. What we're gonna do? We're gonna return it and this function that is return a response dot choices slash zero. That is index zero of the choices response. We're gonna access the choices which is at index zero, and we're gonna fetch the message and its content. Right, perfect. Now let's try running it again. If we get anything, Python app.py. Okay, we're not gonna get anything. Don't worry. We'll just add Streamlit UI. We need to set it up. We don't have any errors right now, so we are going fine. But we need to set up the Streamlit UI. For that to happen, let's write Streamlit app. Streamlit. Everything is done. Now we need to work on the last thing, which is the minor, very small thing. Streamlit as st. st. Right? We are importing Streamlit as st. What are we gonna do? We're gonna write st dot. I'll show you the page over here. We need to write this, right? Firstly, we need to write this. So let's set this up. St dot title. That is, what is the title? AI website riser, right? Let's add an icon over here or an emoji, whatever you can say. After that, we need to write something else. What do we need to write? We need to copy this text, copy this out. I'm going to paste it inside this. Paste any website URL and get a clean summary. Don't need a title anymore, right? So for that to happen, we need to keep it like this. Now, what's the next thing on the website? We need an input box, right? With the text, enter website URL. URL is equals to st. Again, we're putting the Streamlit text underscore input. Okay. Now, what we need to do? We need to paste the text which we copied. Enter the website URL. Got it? Simple. Now, we need to work on so from here till here, till the input box, everything is done. Okay. Now we need to work on summarize. We need to work on this summarize button. When you click on this, and when you enter a valid email address or valid website, everything should be summarized. The data, all the data should be fetched from the web scraper. Then it should be sent to the Gemini API keys or the Gemini. Okay, Gemini. Okay, and it should be sent back from Gemini for us to get these things done. Right. So fst dot button summarize. Okay, if st dot button, if this button over here, if it is present, okay, we're gonna do something, right? If this button is clicked, like if this button is clicked, you're gonna do something. Not present, if that button is clicked, we're gonna do something. Before that, we need to check for something. If not Google underscore API keys. If the API key which we provided in the .env file is not present, You're gonna say, you're gonna throw an error, st.error. Google API key is not found. Please configure, please set the Google API key environment variables. Fine, not an issue. Now the other exceptions, elif URL, if the URL is present, right? If when you click on the summarize button, we need to firstly check on the condition. Is Google API key present? If it is not present, we're gonna throw a simple error. This is the error. And if an URL is thrown or URL is entered in the input box, what we need to do? Since we have an API key right now, everything is fine. We need to try something. What we need to try? We need to do summary is equals to, we need to call what? The main function. What is summarize? Right. And that's gonna be the URL. What is gonna be the URL? URL is gonna be obviously the website entered, and it's gonna be stored. Website entered in the input box over here, and it's gonna be stored in a variable. Right. We're gonna try something, and before that trying, we need a spinner, right? We need a spinner around it. We need to do st dot spinner. That's gonna be when we are loading. Okay, when we are loading it, summarizing. As simple as that. Right. Summary, summarize URL. Now, once you're calling this function, this summarize over here, you're calling this, you're getting what? You're getting all these responses. Now we need to do what? We need to do it properly. What we called it over here, or what we need to do over here is basically we need to use the Streamlit, that is st.markdown. We need to format that properly, right? st.summary, st.markdown, and what is going to be passed? That is going to be passed as summary. Whatever is getting out from the function is going to be stored in a variable summary or an object. Then we're going to format it. Also, since we're in a try, we need to add an exception. That is accept exception as e, and just add it as an error occurred. Okay, as simple as that. If elif is done, okay, now you need to do what? Just write it else, or else it's going to be very simple error. That is, please enter a valid URL. I think we're done over here now, and hope you got it everything, and hope you got everything. Okay, so let's do streamlet run app.py. Look, we got it over here. It's on the localhost 8501. Let's copy this out. Let's paste it over here. Let's summarize this. Look at the spinner. It's working, right? And when the content loads, the spinner stops, right? You can read this out. This extremely right. We are using Gemini API keys over here, Google API keys, and we're using the Gemini model. That is, what model are we using? Gemini 2.5 Pro. If you want, you can just cut this out, Control X, and paste it in the beginning so you know what you're actually doing. Okay. The model is Gemini 2.5 Pro, and it got all the results. So I'll see you in the next video with some more amazing content. Until then, bye bye. Take care.